Welcome to 1 Minute Wins with Dr. Dana Martin, the podcast where intentional growth meets practical leadership. One quote, one lesson, one action to help you lead yourself and others better. Let's jump in. Howdy and welcome back to 1 Minute Wins. I am Dr. Dana Martin. Today on the podcast, we're going to talk about learning through reflection. Experience alone doesn't make you better. Time alone doesn't make you wiser. Activity alone doesn't make you stronger. Today, 1 Minute Win number 53, we're going to use a quote from John Dewey. It says, "We do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience." That quote challenges that kind of old adage or myth that, so long as you've been on this earth, you've got a lot of experience. Years of experience do not equal growth. Intentional reflection does. So today we're going to talk about how reflection transforms activity into insight and why leaders who pause outperform leaders who only push. Reflection turns activity into insight. Most leaders live in motion between meetings, deadlines, decisions, problems, but without a pause and reflection, motion becomes repetition. You don't grow from what happens to you. You grow from what you examine about what happened. Reflection sharpens judgment and it strengthens your decision making and accelerates your learning. And so without it, you repeat mistakes faster. I once worked with a leader and they had about 15 years of experience, but it was the same year repeated 15 times. Like every challenge looked the same. Every mistake in those challenges resurfaced. Every lesson was quote unquote learned, but never retrained. Why? Because there was no reflection. I understand that we have a lot of meetings on our calendar and we even have 1 Minute Wins talking about priorities and helping out your calendar, but your self-leadership is that important. You don't debrief after a difficult meeting. You don't analyze after you missed a goal or a deadline. You don't pause after success to evaluate how it could have been done better. See, when we implemented a simple weekly reflection practice, 3 questions, 10 minutes, that's all we did. Performance improved, and it wasn't because the circumstances, situation changed, but because awareness increased. Reflection didn't slow the progress, it actually accelerated it. So here's some data from the Psychological Science by Journal of Psychological Science. This is by Francesca Gino. They found that 15 minutes reflecting at the end of a workday will improve performance by 23%. Wait for it, over 10 days. What? Hold on a second. Yeah, that was the research. Over 10 days, those who spent 15 minutes reflecting at the end of the workday improved their performance by 23% compared to those who did not reflect. Not 2%, not some nominal, it says marginal. No, 23%. The activity didn't change. What they were doing didn't change. All that changed was the reflection. That's leadership leverage. Here's another way to look at it. The unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates. Man, Dr. Dana, I didn't know we'd get so deep. But this is important, folks, in leadership. It's important for self-leadership. Reflection and taking that time, it's not indulgent. It's strategic. Leaders who reflect constantly and consistently. They make better decisions. They avoid making the same mistakes or repeated mistakes. They grow faster than their competition, not because they work more or harder, but because they are critically thinking. They think better. Some of my most valuable growth didn't happen in the moment. It happened afterward, like after the meeting or after I gave a speech or after helping work through some conflict. And I sat down and I said, what worked? What didn't work? What could I change? Those 3 questions turned into an after session debrief. Session in bunny ear quotes. Because after whatever situation, asking yourself those 3 questions turns mistakes into an instruction, a lesson. So without that pause, I would have continued to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. The reflection didn't guarantee that it would be fluffy and comfortable, but it would guarantee truth and clarity. Here's how leaders build reflection into their rhythm. There are 4 this session. First, set a consistent time each day, into the week, into the day. Keep it very predictable. Schedule it. Number 2, ask 3 simple questions. What went well? What needs adjustment? What's the lesson? Number 3, write it down. Thinking is good, but writing makes it real. It locks it in. Number 4, apply one insight immediately. Reflection without application becomes journaling. So reflection with action, that's what growth is. You don't need hours, you just need intention. So here's the reflection for today. What's one lesson from today's experience? What's one lesson from today's experience? Not today's experience with 1-minute wins. Maybe it is. But what's one lesson you can take from your experience in living today? Not from last year, not from a big failure. Again, just today. What insight is just waiting to be captured, like a Pokemon? Your action this week is to write it down and plan how you're going to apply it tomorrow. That's 1 sentence, 1 adjustment, 1 improvement. Write it down. Growth compounds through repetition. Write it down, put it somewhere you can read every single day. Leaders who reflect grow faster, not because they avoid mistakes, but because they don't waste them. Reflection transforms those setbacks into a formidable strategy. And in leadership, that is an edge that can compound. If you want accelerated growth, just build a sliver of reflection into your routine. If this episode challenged you or helped you, share it with someone who's very busy but wants to be better. You'll find more resources and other things like books over at dmilm.com. You can get the book 1 Minute Wins. Take control of your growth journey 1 minute at a time on amazon.com. Of course, that is the book that these podcasts are based on. Always, always remember, though, be the example.